Coming up on Kochie's Business Builders, how to successfully start manufacturing in Asia, our expert panel advises on the goals that you need to set to make 2014 a success, and the founder of Flight Centre explains how to ride the peaks and troughs of the business cycle. Hey, great to have you back for what promises to be a huge last show of this, our 7th series. To kick the new year off, we'll be catching up with some KBB experts to help set your business goals for 2014. It's going to be a really interesting year ahead, so you need to be absolutely prepared for what's in store. Also, the pros and cons of manufacturing in Asia and how to make it work. Plus a really interesting insight into Aussie success story Flight Centre. But before all of that, let's dive into a bit of news you can use. The booming online retail market is moving to mobile, meaning your online strategy needs to be mobilised and quickly. New research out of the US shows mobile spending will account for nearly $30 billion or 11.5% of this year's e-commerce spending. And given mobile now accounts for over half of the time consumers spend on internet shopping, this share is poised to grow. So if you have an online store or are looking to make the move there, be sure to include a mobile responsive site into the design. It'll help capture more customers in this quickly growing market. Manufacturing in Asia has become a crucial cog in the manufacturing operations of many businesses, from Apple to the local t-shirt shop. But getting started there can be a bit daunting. One business that has made the leap with great success is local engineering startup Advanced Navigation. We team them up with the experts at Austrade to explain a few different manufacturing approaches for your small business.
So Xavier, Advanced Navigation, a startup to an amazing small business story in only 2 years. Tell us a bit about the company, how it all started and where you're heading.
Well, we started up back in Perth 2 years ago. Half of our engineers came from a company building aerial robots, also known as drones.
Drones, okay.
And the other half came from a company that was working on a flying car.
Flying car, like the Jetsons?
Yeah, like
wow,
the Jetsons. Okay. We broke off to start up our own company developing the navigation systems for robots.
And you've got great contracts, your household name in America. How have you kept that up? I mean, 2 years to grow from a startup.
One of the best things we've had is a quality management system, an inventory control system that we picked up early on, and that has really helped us out, along with accounting software. And then all the contract manufacturers we have through Australia, like Class Tech here, have really helped us out in manufacturing on a short notice.
You've recently moved a lot of your operations to Asia, to China, Thailand, Malaysia.
Our own products, we manufacture them all here, but we also do a lot of contract engineering for other companies where we'll manufacture a product from scratch. With those jobs, there's a real push on price. The larger quantities is just a lot more economically feasible to go to Asia.
But you have a lot still produced here in Australia and all your research and development here in Australia?
Yeah, all research and development here. And yeah, we still have a lot of manufacturing done here as well.
How did you find suppliers in China?
We had a few people who gave us guidance. A lot of word of mouth like that. There's also a lot of online directories of manufacturers with ratings. Makes it very easy to find manufacturers overseas, get in touch and get started.
How did you test these contacts out?
Usually we'll get them to do a small run and see how they go with that. We'll only use a manufacturer if they're recommended to us.
And this view that, you know, China's all low labour costs, it's not true now, is it? I mean, there's great demand for skilled labour and labour shortages in places like China. Have you had that experience in your own business?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, some of the manufacturers that we work with will have problems getting the right staff to do the right job.
Do you think there'll be a time where you'll have 100% of your manufacturing say, in China?
With the rising wages in China and rising costs over there, I would expect a slight increase in our Australian manufacturing.
What did you find the most challenging about doing business in China or doing business in Asia?
The communications barrier can be very difficult. Usually you're operating through a translator to speak to the technical people. A lot of the fine details get lost on the way through, and it can be quite frustrating. That's why some of the Southeast Asian countries can be good there, because English is a lot more native.
And do you think the higher Australian dollar will impact you, or do you think you've got such a high quality product it'll be okay?
I think with our products at the moment, it shouldn't make too much of a difference. The recent drop in the Australian dollar
Has helped a bit?
Yeah, it has. That's been pretty good for our US customers.
A lot of Australian small businesses say it's harder to do business in the US than it is in China. Has that been your experience?
Yes, the Chinese are quite easy to do business with. The US, particularly in regards to getting POs in, and just the whole process is very long.
Well, thanks, Xavier. Shay shay, as we say in China, and good luck with your business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a great insight into the very different approaches for getting started in Asia. Don't forget, Austrade is always happy to help out with Aussie operations abroad, so don't hesitate to get in touch. Their contact details are on our website. Coming up next, our expert set some goals for 2014. This business tip brought to you by NAB. We see Australian business. Hamish, you say you see Australian business. I'm a small business importing goods from overseas. What do you see for me?
With the Australian dollar significantly fluctuating over the last 12 months, I see importers and exporters dealing with overseas companies needing to manage the risk of their international payments and foreign exchange rate.
So what's the best approach?
It's always much better to pay in the recipient's currency. That way you eliminate any surprise exchange conversions or any arguments about the exchange rate.
What about SWIFT numbers and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll need the recipient's account details, such as international bank account number, bank codes, etc. You'll also need the full name and physical address of the recipient. They won't accept PO boxes.
It sounds complex, is it?
It's relatively straightforward, Kochie, but there are different complexities depending on regions overseas. Probably best to speak to the NAB banker, who can help manage the complexities and differences between regions.
And what about online banking?
Yeah, absolutely. So NAB recognises the importance of minimising costs and fees when making international payments. And all NAB customers can use internet banking for an international payment. Plus we have NAB Connect, which is our new internet banking for business system, and that allows small businesses to not just make international payments, but also do it on real-time rates. That way giving small business more control.
All right, Hamish, thanks for that. Incredibly helpful.
Thanks.
For more information, visit nab.com.au/smallbusiness. The New Year break is the ideal time to take stock of your business and reset goals for the year ahead. To help you through the process, I caught up with finance expert Julia Bickerstaff, sales gun Kieran McGuigan, and business coach Linda Haley to get their top suggestions for setting you up for 2014. All right, guys, start of 2014. We're on a break. We're thinking about our business in 2014 and how to do things better. Give us some direction. Julia, finance.
If you think about just a few things like, what would our business look like if we moved like our net profit percentage by 1%? You know, that can make a big difference to your bottom line, but it's not a huge thing to have to think about. But asking yourself a question like that helps you work out what to do. It's much harder to say, what should I do with my business next year, than it is to say, if I wanted to move it by 1%, what would I do?
All right, Kieran, your turn. Sales. Everyone wants more sales. Often we business owners are terrible at it. How can we prepare to sell more in 2014?
I think the number one thing that everybody should do in 2014 is look back and say, what did we do well from a sales perspective in 2013, and do that more. So do more of it, more activity, more speaking with your existing customers, and speak more to new customers. Find new customers and have a conversation with them. Now, all of that comes back down to how do we measure that? If we measure the number of times we're doing it, do it a little bit better, we'll write more business.
Now to work-life balance, how do we improve that, Linda?
Like Julia said, start thinking about what you want your life to be. If you only want to work 4 days a week, now's the time to start planning for that. And that might mean you've got to do a few things. First thing is you need to delegate it. Then you need to diarise. So if you want a day off a week, put it in the diary. If you want to be home to see the kids at a certain time, put it in the diary. And then the last thing is do it.
All right, back to finance. Julia, the nuts and bolts. How do you get on top of the numbers?
If you haven't done budgets for next year, a cash flow forecast is so important. And cash flow is another really good question to ask yourself. How can I just chop a couple of days, get my cash in just a couple of days faster? You know, not weeks and months faster, but just a couple of days. Because again, they're the little changes you can make in your business, which you can think about now, which will really make a difference.
Kieran, sales, should you have a sales plan for next year, setting benchmarks, KPIs, things like that?
Any good plan has to be written down, and if there's one thing I encourage everybody to do is budget activity before dollars. Now what I mean by that is too many sales plans are that we want to reach X $100,000 or X $1 million by this time. Well, that's not really a plan, that's a number and a target. Good to have, but you need to reverse engineer that back and budget activity. What do you do each and every day, once a week, once a month, whatever it may be, and then make that into a habit, a sales habit. Now, whether you do it or you employ people to do it, it doesn't really matter, but it needs to be done. And so budget your activity first, and the dollars will look after themselves.
And Linda, you can combine breaks with think time as well, can't you?
Absolutely. One of the things that you need to get work-life balance is you need to get your work balanced before you can get your life balanced. So one of the things I tend to think about is what were the major stressors in my business life? So sometimes we find that we might have 10% of our clients who create 70% of the dramas. I actually sit down and do some analysis on what they're worth to me and whether they need to stay or whether they need to go. Have a look at how you're managing your staff. What's causing the stress? Is it the fact that you're a control freak, won't let go of anything? Is it the fact that you don't communicate? So try and identify the stress points, and that's what you start to think about. Okay, how can I make that better? How can I make it easier?
That's fabulous, guys. We're all set for 2014. Thanks for that.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Coming up next on KBB, some tips from the founder of Flight Centre on how your business can survive the peaks and the troughs of the business cycle. Graham Turner founded Flight Centre in 1981 and since then has grown it into Australia's largest travel company. It's a super impressive story of a business that's weathered booms, busts and the rise of online to still dominate its market. KBB's Alex Brophy caught up with Graham to find out just how he's done it and the essential aspects of building a booming operation.
So Graham, you've grown the business from a single retail outlet to a network of 2,500 stores. How'd you get started?
We set up Sydney Flight Centre in conjunction with Dave Tonkin, just off the Martin Place. So that was the first shop, 1981, and we just grew rapidly from then.
And what did the growth look like in those early days?
It was hectic. We had one shop in 1981 to about 35 by 1986, 87.
One of the really interesting things about, and unique to your business, is this sort of Stone Age civilization business structure. Can you tell us a bit about that?
The average team leader finds about 6 or 7 people is about the right size for them to be able to manage and handle and run the business really well. I read an article by Nigel Nicholson, who's a professor at the School of Economics in London, and he actually rationalised it in terms of that hunter-gatherers essentially were organised in families of up to about 7. They lived in villages of up to 5 or 8 families, and then they lived in tribes. It's the way people like to be organised, and that's one of the reasons we believe it's quite successful.
So do you find that really conducive to sort of promoting and sourcing talent within the business?
We have leadership programs where we identify people at an early stage, giving them mentors so that we can keep them interested in the business. They can go on to be into more of the senior leadership ranks.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've had over the course of the business journey?
In 1995, we floated on the ASX, and that was a challenge in itself, but one of the really good things we did the last 15 years with the internet was quite a challenge. We've certainly lost some business to that, but we've grown our market share at the same time.
You've been told for the last 5-10 years that you're not going to survive. You're a bricks and mortar travel agency. What is it that makes your offering so competitive?
Well, I think it's one of the fallacies that it costs more to run a bricks and mortar than an online travel agent, and there are so many costs in an online travel agency you don't necessarily have. They have huge marketing costs because they have to get out there and get known. We have our online offering and our bricks and mortar, what we call blended access, so customers can deal with this however they want, online or offline.
One of the other interesting things about Flight Centre is the organic growth. For a big company, the temptation is to grow through acquisitions and easy market entries like that. What are the keys to cultivating that growth?
It's by opening more teams, more shops, growing horizontally by opening in different countries, having different brands. Across the organisation we have 29 different brands now, mostly in travel, and also growing vertically through wholesale operations, direct contracting with hotels and other suppliers. Even at a reasonably large size, our sales this year will be something like 15 or 16 billion.
So you've taken this business from scratch to $15-16 billion in sales this year. What are the biggest lessons you've learned along the way?
You've got to have a bit of a grand vision. You know, you've got to expect that you are going to grow, that you're going to be successful. I think you've got to be well organised. You've got to make sure you've got good systems and obviously good leaders.
So Graham, you've seen a lot of change over your time in the Australian tourism industry. What does it look like at the moment? What's the outlook?
We're a very expensive destination, but one that people really want to visit. I think we'll get good growth inbound. Outbound, with the slightly weaker Australian dollar, it might come off a little bit, but you know, Australians are such inveterate travellers. We just can't see any major downturn. And I think there's some positive inbound news at the moment.
Well, it's a fantastic story from a very down-to-earth Aussie entrepreneur, Graham. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Alex.
Now, throughout this series of KBB, we've heard a lot about SEO, or search engine optimisation. It's so important for your online presence. Well, KBB Digital has another fantastic giveaway, $10,000 SEO package to make sure your website is getting the attention it deserves. Head to kbbdigital.com.au for more information. Coming up, it's Ask Kochie.
It's Tech Tip Time with Val Quinn.
Well, we've covered a lot of tips over this season, but here are some of the things that you should be focusing on for the new year. Now, first off, when it comes to technology, leverage mobile. That means take advantage of smartphones and tablets. You'd be amazed at the kinds of things that you can do with them, and they allow you to get out of the office and out onto the field or to see your customers more than ever. Number two, protect your data. If you are going out with your tablet devices and phones, you need to make sure that these are protected as well. So make sure that you implement a good backup and security policy for your business and install up-to-date software. Number three, think about social media as a way to save money, to reduce costs for advertising and marketing expenses. Leverage these platforms. Instagram is very hot right now, and you want to make sure that you get the word out. Now, lastly, instead of buying and paying full price for these types of things, think cloud. You can get your accounting, your CRM, your design, and your office tools all through the cloud through monthly subscriptions. It's a great way to maximize your cash flow and get your business what it needs.
Time to answer your questions now, and Sanir has sent this one in by Facebook. He says, we sell our products at markets and events, but are always in competition with cheaper counterfeit products of larger brand names. Ours then look expensive and people are unwilling to purchase them. How can we compete? Well, while you might not be able to compete on price, you do have a competitive advantage in the authenticity of your brand. So you really need to build on that. Drive home the fact your products are designed and made here in Australia, or that they're one-off items or unique in some other way. By effectively communicating the originality and authenticity of your product, you won't be in direct competition with the other items because they'll be a different product altogether. If you can achieve this product differentiation, the pricing won't be as important because buyers will realise the products are not the same. Let us know how you get on. Well, thank you for joining us throughout this series, Series 7 of KBB. We hope you've got as much out of it as we've had fun filming it. It is such an inspiring, engaging area. We just love small business. We love what you do. Look, between now and the next series, stay in touch with us on Facebook, Twitter, and through the KBB website. And don't forget that you can get one-on-one access to many of our experts through KBB coaching. So the information just keeps on coming. Those experts are ready and waiting to share their wisdom to help you and your business. Head to kbbcoaching.com.au to find out how. Now, we look forward to seeing you when Series 8 of KBB returns later in the year. In the meantime, have a wonderful 2014. I hope you have great success.